warm welcome back to Northampton College. This is our Scania 113 to 143 V8 conversion. I'm James. This is episode 4. Today, we're going to make the V8 fit. So we've got a few challenges along the way, so sit back and enjoy. The engine mounting there, it just doesn't line up. It's not central, and that was our challenge. So this is when we tried the other way around. We flipped the black rubber part upside down, and you can see now the stud is sticking out the top, and we've now got a bolt hole at the bottom. That's kind of irrelevant. It's more the central aspect of this black rubber part. You can see how it's off. If you looked on the black dotted line, that's where I needed the bolt to go into the bottom of the black rubber part. Down. And to tell yourself something isn't right, because you cannot put this jigsaw together. The rear engine mountings must be different. They must be different. You know, I'd be on the internet and I'd look for Scania 113 6-cylinder engine mountings, and I'd look for Scania 143 engine mountings, V8s, both the same. Oh, it must be wrong on my one. It must be wrong on this one. And that's where we was. Just keep trying, can't work it out. Something's going wrong. And we just had to get through it. So for purpose of illustration, we've included lots of pictures here because it can be hard to visualize if you're just listening. But look at the pictures. It makes so much sense. The pictures we've circled in red where the mountings just don't line up. Considering buying a new forklift, so we've got this brochure, and I ripped the front page off and just mounted it up against the chassis where the V8 holes should go. All right, John, so lined up all of these holes. Okay. That's the 4 holes. It's sitting the right way because the mounting does sit back a bit. All right, now if I go over to here, those 4 holes, if I line them up exactly the same, it's hard to see, but you can see through the chassis, So they line up with those, so it's no different. So then if I put, it's hard to do 2 jobs at once, hold on mate. So if I put that onto that bolt hole, there's nothing there at the top. Okay, yeah, that lines up, but there's no possible way that the other bolts will line up. No possible way. So if I then get the bottom right one, and then I try to line up the top right one, so let's do that. So there you go, you can line up the top right one and the bottom right one. But look how low down it is. Like, you're talking really low down in the chassis, and it comes very close to the bottom with the other one. So it means you'd have to drill 2 holes in the chassis. So something isn't right, and I'm confused now again. But I think what I learned doing technical support, sometimes you can't find the reason what is wrong, but all you can do is find out what is right. So what we know that's right is this cross member is the same on the 6-cylinder, or the bolt hole pattern is the same on the 6-cylinder and the 8. And then I put it against this old 143 rear engine mounting subframe that we'd got. So we kept that when we dismantled the 143 road train, and I'm just lining it up. I'm holding it against this flange where the bolts go through from the chassis. It doesn't line up. I'm just scratching my head. How come? It's the same part number. And then I just stepped away from it, and it's almost like when you're doodling on a notepad, and I just flipped it around 180 degrees and then put it to the flange, and all the bolt holes lined up. And that's when I got the aha, that eureka moment. It is the same part, it is the same part number, but of course on manufacturing at the factory, the 6-cylinder, the 113, goes in one way, and then if it has a V8, when they're joining the chassis rails at the factory, it flips around 180 degrees. So left side becomes right and right side becomes left. So now we've got the solution. Know what the problem is, and it was that light bulb. It was elation. Okay, we can now move forward with this. In Brisbane, we've got Volvo truck manufacturing in Waco, and I've been to the facility and had a look around, and I was shown around. It was really interesting to see these trucks getting built, and also when you see a Swedish product being built in the Southern Hemisphere, you kind of look at it from a different perspective. Scania, whilst they're a great product, they're also a profitable company. They have to be. No business survives, does it, without making profit? So they're not going to just have all these different chassis and all these different parts when they can interchange between models, and that's exactly what they did on the 3 Series. This is this lean manufacturing model that Scania and most other manufacturers use. So I knew that what we had to work. I wasn't taking a V8 out of a 143 and trying to fit it into a DAF 95. I'm trying to fit it into the same series of truck, which uses the same chassis rails, the same engine mounting red there on the side of the chassis. This was for the V8, and the yellow holes at the bottom were the 6-cylinder. So it could go either way, but what was a real messing with your brain was the fact that the rear engine mounting cross member behind would only line up with the V8. So we knew the chassis was the same. We knew the cross member was the same part number. Why wouldn't it line up? Why we just couldn't cross that line? We couldn't correlate what's going on here. So we went right the way back to truck manufacturing again, thinking how would Scania have done this? And it was that piece of cardboard, that forklift brochure, the front page there. So we made the holes there for the V8, and then of course when we started to work out what had happened and we lined it up, flipped it 180 degrees, you can see now on the other side of that page, which is the same template, the 6-cylinder side has a different bolt profile. And that's why Scania put the cross member in one way for a V8 and one way for a 6-cylinder. This is our eureka moment. This is when it all made sense. Diaries, guys, if you're ever doing a conversion, it doesn't matter how silly the pictures are and the words that you use, but do it. It's good to document things. My little dismantle and build diary, and whilst it's not worthy of a technical document, it was helpful to me. And even you can see that last point 85 there, and I've said the back engine mounting cross member, the top of it is leaning back in the chassis, the bottom of it is leaning forward. That was really helpful because it helped me convince my mind that the 6-cylinder and the V8 positions of this cross member were different. But of course, when it's trapped inside the chassis and you can't flip it around without doing something drastic like cutting it, you're just trying to find a solution. Now, when you go to a manufacturer, it's all on a computer. The technician, the mechanics, workbench is a very different environment now, isn't it? When you think back to having a toolbox and a a grinder wheel, a wire wheel attachment, a vise on the bench. That's changed now. There's always some IT reference there. There's a laptop, there's a computer, there's a point of diagnostics, there's a point of electronic workshop manual or something like that. So all these paper manuals that I know can be sitting about in dealers still, I was optimistic. I said to my brother, can you start chasing Scania dealers just to get me a workshop manual for a 3 Series Scania? And couldn't find one. My buddy down the Gold Coast is a big car guy. He goes to regular swap meets. I had him on the case, and he's so kind. This dude is the kindest dude you ever meet. He would bring me Scania badges and stuff like that, and Scania pictures, weekly. He's so kind, but he couldn't find a manual either. Good morning, guys. Scania update. So we got to the bottom of the back engine mounting, and what we've had to do is put the left side to the right and the right side to the left. What that meant is cutting the cross member and swapping it around. The profile of the bolts doesn't allow you to just move it forward. None of the bolt holes line up. Well, that's not true. 2 line up, and you can't have a big 1.3 ton or whatever it is engine sitting on 2 bolts. So they're the 6-cylinder holes, and this profile is the V8. So what we did, we kept looking at the cross member, showed you on previous videos, kept looking at the cross member and thinking, well, how can we get these bolt holes to line up? And it was just by chance flipping the template around that I'd drawn, and then I realised, well, if you turned it around 180 degrees, those bolt holes would now line up. So we had to cut it. So that's what we've done. Then it's that moment we get the engine and we're lowering it down, and I've got my fingers crossed, and it just drops straight onto the front. And we put the bolts on the front just to secure it, and then we continue lowering it down, and it drops straight on the back, and the bolts just fall in perfect. And it's like you stand back and that feeling, you just don't know what to do. Have a cup of tea and some biscuits, or go and get some beers. It's just that great feeling. So that's how it ended up for us. So I can't believe how quick this has gone, but thanks very much for everybody who's watched. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, guys, give us a like, give us a subscribe, help us build the channel. Okay, so look forward to seeing you again on the next one, guys, and always remember, guys, Team 143, let's do this.